Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Outside the Panels. This time around, I am so far outside panels you would not believe. It's had to be done, I'm afraid. I've had to bring in a compadre. We keep seeing his adverts on the show, so it's about time to bring in an expert around the topic we're going to be discussing. So first off, Bobo from Crisis in the Toyverse. How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty good so far. I have no complaints. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. My hair's looking funky, so I'm all good about that. So, if I had a question for you, if I said, who is the real American hero, you would think I'd be talking about G.I. Joe. We're going to be talking to Fresh Monkey, owner, creator, figure manufacturer Bill Murphy, who's bringing back, after 40 years, Eagle Force.
Ooh, Eagle Force. I'm excited.
Excellent. Bill, how are you doing?
Doing great. How are you all doing?
Very well. Very well.
Good as can be.
Thank you for taking the time out to talk about Eagle Force. So,
Sure thing.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Bobo's an expert. I'm a bit of a noob when it comes to this. So, explain to me, what's Eagle Force?
Yeah, so essentially, Eagle Force was a line that was created in the early 80s. It only lasted about one wave. And then around the same time, G.I. Joe kind of came out also and sort of dominated the toy market, as we all know. I'm a huge fan of G.I. Joe growing up in the 80s myself. So flash forward to about 5 years ago, I was able to get a hold of the Eagle Force rights and relaunch the line as Eagle Force Returns. So we relaunched the line in, let's see, I guess it was 2017 or so. And then we did that as a Kickstarter, and we delivered our product about a year or so ago. It took a little while, but we were able to kind of bring back the line and revisit some of those characters from the 80s, as well as sort of bring some new ones into play as well.
Cool. Excellent. So these are the smaller action figures. So, Bobo, you're our resident expert on these things. So when we talk G.I. Joe, you know, over here in the UK, they were called Action Force. So that's the way it went. So these are kind of like the Star Wars Generation 1 size figures. Is that right?
That's what it looks like to be based on all the information I've seen. They're a little bigger, 4-inch, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. They definitely have a presence to them, at least from the photos that I've seen. Packed in with a lot of cool accessories too.
Yeah, the original figures that came out in the 80s were actually 3-inch metal die-cast figures.
Whoa.
And so I had a few of those. My brother and I used to throw them around each other, hurt ourselves a little bit because they were metal. That was fun.
Death by Eagle Force.
Yeah. So yeah, I got a few bruises because of those. But the new line, when we relaunched it, we decided to do it as more of a modern 4-inch style figure. Okay. Versus going back to the die-cast 3-inch scale, because the market had, I think, matured to the place where they were looking for this kind of styled figure. So they're similar in terms of the Star Wars scale, but just a little bit bigger, have more articulation, which kind of really speaks to more of the audience for this type of stuff today.
Mm-hmm. So with the original figures, the regular 1, 2, 3, 4 points of articulation, or were they also 5 including?
There were 5, yeah.
Sorry, Bobo, I forgot the head. So what can I say? I told you I'm a newbie at this sort of stuff, you know. That's right. All right. So the change from 5 points down to 14 points of articulation, that's for the current audience. Did you find that there was I suppose then a difference in style and a different in kind of maintaining the look of the figure? Because, you know, traditionalists will like the can't move the elbows element, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you know, it was interesting because Eagle Force was sort of a smaller brand, and GI Joe had sort of taken over. You had people who were familiar with it. You certainly had a few diehard fans who obviously, you know, wanted things that were like, hey, we can't, where are, you know, where are our gold figures, right? So that's one of the reasons that we, when we originally did the line a few years ago, we had a couple of exclusive gold figures because all those figures were, at least the heroes, were all in die-cast gold. We did a couple of gold figures for the relaunch, but we were trying to do things a little more modern. And we had a lot of people going, I really want those gold figures. Bring them back, bring them back. So as the 40th anniversary was coming, we're like, okay, let's do a classics line where we still do a lot of those gold characters. So that's kind of what you see here, where we didn't do as many when we relaunched a few years ago.
Okay, cool. Bobo, any questions so far?
I think my first question is like, now that you've updated the figures as well as you guys have based on, you know, the images that I've seen, did you find making all those articulation points easy or hard, or was it hard trying to find a balance between like sculpt and articulation, especially on such a smaller figure?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think I was used to I was very familiar with the style of figure, so it wasn't a huge hurdle to do that. I think the biggest hurdle we have really, especially in sort of the indie toy market, where you know you're not going to get the tens of thousands of orders that you would get at like a mass market store, like Toys R Us is gone now, sadly. But like, you know, a Walmart, a Target. We really have to really optimize for our tooling, which means that's the steel tools that the figures are made out of. So you have to do a lot of parts reuse across the figures to really make sure that you can optimize the figure and get things in for a cost that will allow you to actually go into production. So I think the biggest challenge for us was figuring out like, okay, well, we know we have these sets of parts. How much can we reuse them so that they're not like overused, where people are like, oh, it's just this with a new head or whatever. So that was the biggest challenge, is trying to figure out between Riot, who are our bad guys, and Eagle Force, who are our good guys, how do we kind of share those parts and still make them unique?
Cool.
Nice. I definitely think like in terms of tooling, having them have shared parts, I think it really works for a line like this because, you know, yeah, they have unique sculpts and all, each one of them, but like they share parts, they're uniformed, they look good with one another, like all the different characters, especially the ones that I've seen up for pre-order on Big Bad Toy Store. Like there's some really cool designs, but like I know some in the collecting world nowadays get mad about reuse and they go all over the place with it. But I think definitely with a line like this, I think the reusing looks to be done very well, and it makes sense. I don't know if that made any sense.
No. Yeah. I mean, if you talk about reusing, let's see. I've just had the full team in shot there. So boom, there we go. So we talk about reusing. We're not just talking about hands, though, are we? It's like some of these legs would be reused because they're part of that uniform. Is that kind of what we're saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's the challenge there, where you have similar vests. I mean, the nice thing about the military type theme is it skews that direction, which is good. So you're able to kind of, okay, I can paint this vest black and this one red and add some new pockets here, and it helps, I think, with the decos for sure.
So definitely. Although I've got to say, I'm not sure if how much it cost you for the Chuck Norris likeness on this guy here. You know, just Chuck Norris a figure now. Apologies, Chuck Norris, if you're watching. All right, so run me through the cast. Who's this guy with the binos? That's the boss, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we have Captain Eagle there as one of our. He's the main, good guy in the line. He leads the team.
Cool.
So yeah, so we've done obviously him and his gold outfit, and then originally we did. I don't know if you guys can see this here, but we did. This is his returns version.
Just 2 seconds. Let me bring that up. Let me just make you. No, let's not do that.
I didn't mean to throw you off.
No, there you are. That's fine. You can
Yeah.
see it. Cool.
So this was more of his modern type outfit that we did, whereas the ones we're doing for the you know, the 40th is going to be in his gold outfit.
Do you find therefore that the gold outfits are so dramatically different? I suppose. Yes, dramatic is a word. Yes, I made it up. That's
I love it.
Thank you. Copyrighted me. So do you find that the gold outfits really help differentiate them from the Jaws?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think they're very unique. I think you know, you have a lot of people that are like, why would this military team have gold outfit? And so that's why we sort of skewed towards modern with the relaunch. But
I can imagine them. Hey, you know what? It'd be great to have to storm a Lady Gaga concert.
Right, exactly. Right. I think that's probably where they're going. And so that's why I skewed towards more of the modern stuff for the returns. But then we had a lot of people who just really love the vintage line, and you know, the retro stuff has really come back in the toy business. Babo, I'm sure, you know, obviously is very aware. A lot of the stuff from the 80s has been brought back by the various companies today. And so I think a lot of people are like, hey, okay, yes, they're military figures in gold outfits, but I really love the fact that that exists. So we're definitely leaning in that direction for the 40th for sure.
Cool.
No, they oh, I'm sorry, Johnny.
No, go for it. I was just going to invite you.
No, I mean, you know, that retro styling definitely appeals to collectors who definitely were children at that time, and now they got extra money in their pocket. So no, I think it works very well. I did have a question about the packaging and the design of that. Was it something that you wanted to keep in the style of, say, vintage, or did you guys want to move on after you got that initial vintage style set of figures out and then like move on to a more dynamic style of card back or artwork on those boxes?
I think we've always stuck with sort of that original look from the 80s line as well. So that red backer card with like a hero comic image. I think that's one of the things that I always liked about the line, is that they Paul Kirshner, who originally designed the line, you know, worked in more of a comic book style. And so we wanted to bring that forward as well. And so we have Stephen Butler, who's doing our art now, kind of sticking with sort of that more comic look versus a painted look or other types of things that you might see in more of different lines. So that's something, being a huge comic book fan that I am, I always gravitated to the line because of that. And on the back of the original cards, they also had comic strips as well. So that's, you know, when I was a kid and I found Eagle Force, it was like, oh, that's actually really cool, because I was a huge comic book fan, still am. And so we kind of wanted to stick with that with the new line as well, and kind of keep that theme.
Oh, that's fair. I think that's very cool. And, you know, I'm more of an out of a box collector, but I can always appreciate a good looking card back or box on a packaging. So it's nice to see that you guys are covering all aspects, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, that's also why we have like collector friendly packaging too, because I'm a big, most of my toy collection is not in the package. It's displayed on a shelf. So our packages also have the ability that you can take the figure out and put it back in if you want to keep that packaging or not. So it's collector friendly.
Oh, nice. So what when you say out of the box collector, I'm assuming that means, Bobo, you like taking the figure out of the box, doing the whole articulation type thing, yeah?
Absolutely. Release them from their plastic prison, as we all say.
But then the value goes down.
Value, smell you. It's all about the experience with the toy in your hand.
All right, fair enough. Good shout. Good call. All right, so do you think then, Bill? I mean, the toy market has moved on massively. You know, you can argue, you can debate this for ages. Actually, who started the figure market? You know, loads of people will point to Star Wars Generation 1 as the ones that probably made that size figure super popular. You know, from there became the Jaws. You know, and then He-Man came and they were a bigger figure again. It seemed for a while there that figures kind of took a bit of a nosedive. What do you think it is that's kind of like brought the figure world back around into the, I suppose, the mainstream?
I mean, I don't know. Bob might actually have a good opinion of this too. I think really what happened is in the I think what happened is in the mid '90s, Todd McFarlane launched his toy line, and that really changed the dynamic of how figures were presented at that time.
Mhm.
And from then, we've sort of built upon that over the last, I don't know, 20 or so years. That really, like, you started to build more into this collectible market with this higher articulation, more detailed art, more detailed figures, those type of things. So that was a big swing, I think, in the mid '90s that kind of got us to where we're at today. And Todd has certainly had his up and downs in the toy industry. His recent stuff going back into it with DC has been pretty amazing as well.
Mhm.
So, but I think that really helped kind of move the market into kind of where we're at today. But Bob, I'd love to know what you thought about that too.
I think, in a way, it's all kind of Todd's fault when you really think about it.
Damn you, McFarlane! Damn you to hell!
Because he brought in all these amazing sculptors who worked on all these things and had never been seen before in the marketplace. So when some of those initial artists left and they started like NECA and then Toy Biz with the Marvel Legends line, and then you have the Four Horsemen who start doing their stuff, like it just changed everything. The focus went towards some collectors all about sculpts. And you saw that with like with guys early on with like Diamond, like Gene St. Jean and people like that. And then the NECA crew focused on sculpt same way at first. And then Toy Biz was like, let's get these things moving as much as we can with this Marvel Legends line. And that Marvel Legends line kind of cemented the new collector. It kind of put its foot down. But then as things grew, I don't know, you had a lot of different things changing place. And then the reaction line started. And then 3 3/4 start getting some love again after being in the dark for a while. I mean, other companies had tried 3 3/4 style figures. It had various successes, like Hasbro with their Marvel Universe line, things like that. They just kind of came and went. So now we're at a point where we have collectors for 3 3/4, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 7-inch, 8 to 9-inch, and then you get to your super high-end collectibles like Sideshow and stuff. So there's literally, if there's a toy or a design you want at any scale, chances are you're going to find it somewhere, somehow. So it's cool that you can go anywhere online and pretty much find what you want and how to get it, but it's just crazy how everything.
Nope, your mic's gone.
Oh, it's back. Sorry.
There you go. So, what I've got to be honest. It's my birthday in a couple of weeks. I think I'm getting a Marvel Legends Spider-Woman figure.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure if it's definitely there, but the box looks the same size. I dropped enough hints. You know what I'm saying?
Wink,
So,
wink.
now, to be fair, Mrs. Hughes, she does a great job with all the figures and statues that she gets. So, thank you, Mrs. Hughes. All right. So, which is your favorite character, Bill? Which one's your favorite?
I think right now we have a character called the Cat, and I think one of the reasons that I really like
is that him?
So that's him over there to the right, next to the guy in the bandana. And one of the things we've done over the last few years is also done some ancillary Eagle Force stuff. One of which has been these Eagle Force pulp novels that Chris Irving has been writing, and he's been writing them about that Cat character. So I think he's got he's at his 6th novel right now that he's written about the Cat, which has been great. And he's really explored that character. And I think it goes back for me a little bit to talk about why, to me, these aren't just toys. Like, the toys are great and I love them, but it's also about story. It's also about who the characters are and the story and the world that they're in. And that to me is when I go to do toys is equally important as the toy design. Like if I'm doing a figure, it's got to have some kind of backstory. It's got to have some kind of history. And again, this goes back to, I think, a lot of the 80s stuff where you had all that in the 80s where you have He-Man, you understood what He-Man was because of the cartoon or the comic book. G.I. Joe as well with Larry Hama. In fact, we did a Larry Hama action figure last year because I'm a huge fan of Larry, but it's also about all these worlds that were created, and I'm trying to do the same thing with Eagle Force as well. And so, Chris really took the lead on that for the cat stuff and started writing these novellas, which was fantastic. So really, I have a lot of love for this character, mainly because Chris has done a lot with it so far.
So where can people get the novellas? Because people be like, what? Stories? You get stories?
Yeah, so the drawing word is Chris's website. We link to it off of our website as well.
Cool.
But yeah, people can go get the novellas there from him.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's the cat. So there's all his articulation. You get a spare head, just in case,
Yeah. So a lot of our figures are going to include extra accessories, as you see here, like heads. There's also in the toy market, there's a bunch of collectors who like to army build, and that's where they'll buy a figure that was made to have multiples of, so they can have sort of their army.
All right. So like you've got like an army of stormtroopers.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of our figures have these extra army builder heads. So if you wanted to create an army of Eagle Force soldiers, you could do that with those extra heads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Good shout. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Definitely. Cool. So it's 40 years since the first round of Eagle Force. I'm curious because you mentioned there's the one generation the first time around. Mm-hmm. You also, we've talked about G.I. Joes a little bit. What is it that made you think, when you started the whole process of thinking about Eagle Force, what was it that made you think, oh, you know what, I'm gonna redo, restart, rebuild that one series of figures from 40 years ago? I mean, fair enough, you've got like a cult fan base, I get that, but what was it for you to think, wow, other than obviously attacking your family and stuff with metal figures?
I think part of it was, I think a lot of the characters kind of really spoke to me in the same way that G.I. Joe did. Like there was a lot of diverse variety there, which I think was really fun. And
that's natural. That's just, you mentioned the D word.
Yeah.
The dreaded D word. That was natural diversity. It wasn't shoehorned in.
No. I mean,
it was just, you pick up a G.I. Joe book, comic or cartoon or figures, they don't even explain it. It's like, this is this character, this is this character, this is this character, they're Joes. And you're like, oh, okay, and off you go with it. You don't need to know or care about any sort of forced sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like anybody can be offended at anything type of thing that goes on. So
yeah, I think that was inherent. I mean, the original Eagle Force line of in the 80s sadly played into a little bit more stereotypes than I would have liked to seen, or that we tried to do today. But we tried to kind of build on at least those characters and give them backstory. So like Sergeant Brown, for example, is now General in the new line.
Got promoted. Well done.
Yeah, and he actually leads the Eagle Force team now, really. Like Captain Eagle's still there, but he now has, again, going back to the story that in this universe that we're creating, he now has built out other Force teams that we're also doing. Like we've got, you can see in our initial wave for 40th, we're also touching on some of the other things outside of just the classics line. So we've got like Monster Force, and we're going to have like Adventure Force and Freedom Force and all these other Force teams that General Brown now is sort of, taking the lead on and forming all of these sub teams as well. So, I looked at that 80s line. I was like, okay, this is really great. And there's some great stuff here around military stuff. But also like G.I. Joe did too. Like, what are these sort of other ancillary teams that we could build off of? And I thought, okay, we can do that now. And so let General Brown sort of take his lead here and start creating all these other sub teams. So that's also kind of what we're doing in the universe now as well, is expanding on just the regular line and building out these other sub lines also.
Cool. Story-wise, are they going to interact with each other down the line then?
Absolutely,
yeah. Sergeant Brown's like the fulcrum around all those. Excellent. Cool. Bobo, any questions?
No, I just wanted to go back to when you look at the figures, it's nice to see like all the the proper retooling done for that army builder aspect of it. I think they blend in both very nice together. Based on the photos that I've seen, I think that's nice ingenuity by yourself and the team.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we really tried to, I mean, that's it's going back to like, is it an art or a science? I want to think that the toys are art, but also there's a little science in there because you got to figure out how I can reuse stuff across different figures as well and make them, somewhat unique. But people not feel like they're going to be buying the same thing, over and over again. So that
right.
was
Yeah. And it's nice to see like variety with different heads and stuff to create, secondary characters and stuff, and get the bios on them and whatnot. I think it all has a very awesome presentation package when you're looking to A, purchase, and B, to have in your collection.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, we're really trying here, to, again, get as diverse as we can, add those extra heads. A part of it too is, I mean, you can see here that we have the Kickstarter banner across the top because we were going to kickstart this thing up until like a hot minute ago.
Yeah,
I can talk about that too if you want.
Yeah, go for it. What was the change of pace? Because I mean,
Yeah.
loads of people love Kickstarter.
Yeah. What happened was, and some of the press images already went out with the Kickstarter banner because we were literally going to launch the Kickstarter. And so what happened was a few weeks ago, Big Bad Toy Store reached out, and if you're not familiar with them, they are a very large online retail toy store, and essentially they're one of the bigger ones out there. And they reached out and said, "Hey, I know you've got these. I've seen that you're promoting this stuff on your social media. What would you think if we came in and helped you with the line and promoted the line as an exclusive?" And so that was a big shift that happened just about 3 weeks ago. So now that's why they're available on Big Bad Toy Store versus Kickstarter, because they came and say, we'll support this for you. We believe in what you're doing. We really want to get into helping the indie toy market, because again, like we don't have those reaches into the Targets and the Walmarts. So Big Bad Toy Store was willing to come in and say, hey, we'll help support you, and we'll launch the wave with like the line with about 12 figures, and if sales go well, we'll do some stretch goals on top of that, like you would with Kickstarter. So it definitely was a great opportunity for me, and I wanted to take advantage of it. And they've been great partners so far.
Excellent, cool.
They
go.
No, Big Bad Toy Store is really good. I work with Extreme Dash Sets. As their copywriter for when they do their new releases and stuff. For products, and when we got in with Big Bad Toy Store, they really took care of us, and they're just an awesome company to work with.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah, they're great. Like they really kind of came in and said, "Hey, we will support you here if you want it." And I was like, "Hey, I'd love to get it." And we did the first Eagle Force thing with Kickstarter, and it was great. And I love Kickstarter. That Kickstarter is the only reason that I'm even here, right? I mean, I was able to kind of going back to what we talked about earlier around like, hey, what was this advent of these toys and McFarlane coming in, and what Kickstarter did over the last maybe 6 years was also another opportunity here where you now had folks who could come into the market that maybe weren't going to be able to penetrate the market before. So we were able to do that, as well as a few of the other companies as well. The Four Horsemen did that. Boss Fight, a few other companies have come in. And we kickstarted the line, and we had some factory challenges that really, hurt us for like a good couple of years. And thanks to folks like the Four Horsemen, we were able to kind of move away from that and get into a better factory so our product could get delivered. But we still had a little bit of that, like, okay, well, this was a Kickstarter. It didn't fail, but it certainly took a long time to get to where it needed to be. And so with Big Bad's involvement too, that kind of helps us get over that hump as well. It adds a little bit more cred, I think, to what we're doing, which is nice, if I'm going to put it frankly. And so I think it certainly will help us as we look to grow the line beyond just Kickstarter.
Go ahead.
I think Kickstarter is a really good way of kind of trying to gauge your audience intention. To be honest, I think people have a great idea and think, oh, do you know what'd be really cool if someone did this? Then they go and do it, and then put it on Kickstarter, and then that's basically asking the audience, are you interested? And if
Sure.
you're not interested, it's like, oh, fair enough, I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to write it, I'm not going to draw it, or whatever it is, you know.
Yep.
So I think Kickstarter, I from the comic book people I talk to, they love Kickstarter. It is an expensive setup, or it can be an expensive setup, but you know, you're your own boss, aren't you? So
yeah, I mean, I love it. I love the platform myself. Yeah.
Cool. Bobo, you were going to say?
So when you guys did your Kickstarter, did the pandemic kind of slow everything down with the factories, or were there any challenges with everything that happened going from last year?
Yeah,
where you're at now?
for the first one we did no, because that was a few years ago. But yeah, but I will say the stuff we've been doing since then, especially over the last 2 years, yeah, has definitely the pandemic. It's Murphy's Law, man. I tell you, it hits me every time. The pandemic certainly slowed things down tremendously. And then now we're in the middle of a shipping crisis. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. Especially if you're shipping anything into LA, which is where I'm at. So we're backed up there too. So that's definitely slowed things down tremendously over the last year and a half or so. And the factories have come up to speed a little bit. They're not where they were. I got to be honest. They're not as fast as they were. And now we're hitting the shipping thing too. So there's a few things that are harder for us, especially as the indie toy guys. Like we don't have the Hasbro Mattel money to say, hey, let's just buy our own boat and let's keep it over here. So we have to get, we have to combine containers with other companies, and you wait. And what would have taken a month to get over here is now taking 3 production timelines that, I could get, if I wanted to do a short run of something that was already tooled, I could probably do it within like 4 to 5 months. That takes closer to a year now. So it's we're still hitting hurdles because of that, for sure.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
it's affecting everyone.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. That sounds like a great point for a quick break. So I, in my introduction, introduced Bobo as an expert in figures. He is. Don't ask to see his McFarlane file, for Christ's sakes. It's like how many's in there? 93, did you say?
96 right
96,
now. Not counting.
Obviously, he's bought 3 more since we started this pod. All right, okay. Right. So you want to see how good an expert he is? Check out this advert for Crisis in the Toyverse. Whoa. What a great advert that is.
It's something else, I'll tell you that.
I have to say, I do love the Keanu Reeves figure.
Oh, the John Wick from Diamond Select?
Well, it isn't John Wick. It's Keanu Reeves. You can call it whatever you want. You could call it Bill and Ted if you wanted to, couldn't you, really?
You could do anything you want with your toys. You know who else? You know who else is doing great stuff with their toys that I saw on Big Bad Toy Store is that Eagle Force here has a figure. If you go over to the page, that sort of bears a resemblance to a certain character we just got done talking about. And I thought that thing looked fantastic.
Yeah, we have
at that sculpt level.
Yeah, we've got a couple little homages in the line, I think, that we're throwing towards different things as well, which is nice. That we can, I mean, again, doing the indie toy thing, you can kind of get a little away with it a little more because your audience base is a little smaller, which is nice.
So who are your homages then? Let's
we've got
spill the beans.
various movies that we're throwing
okay.
Yeah, so I would take your best guesses, I guess, and hit us up on social and see if you can figure it out. I think
once you see them, you'll know.
Yeah,
You'll know what's going on.
Yeah.
And these are on the Big Toy website, yeah?
Big Bad has they've got 2 of our current waves up for pre-order right now, and then of course we now are doing the 40th that they've just launched this week as well. So I think there's we've got 2 waves, previous waves I guess it's 5 and 6 already up there right now, and then now with this new 40th, we've got the 40th wave that is being split into 2 waves for right now. Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, we're trying to stick to 8 characters per wave if we can. That's the hope.
Oh, okay. That was a question I was going to have. How many do you plan on releasing that way? But you answered it, so thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, cool. Big Bad Toy Store. I'm just looking on the website right now as you're talking, so I'm going to see if I can find these whilst you're chit-chatting away there. Okay, cool. Right, so big question then. Who would win in a fight, G.I. Joe or Eagle Force?
Well, I have to say Eagle Force. Eagle Force, as much as a fan of G.I. Joe that I am, I'm gonna have to, say Eagle Force. But yeah, that's gonna be my vote for right now.
All right. But Bobo, what do you think?
Oh, I'm gonna say Eagle Force. I mean, not only can their figures have some amazing articulation, but in a pinch, you can pop off a head, change some arms around, and you got a whole second tag team partner there to go in to finish off the fight.
Yep.
All right then. Okay, fair enough. Let me put your toy opinions to the test. Who would win in a fight, Transformers or Gobots?
I think everybody's gonna say Transformers. I've yet to meet a real Gobot diehard in my life.
Everyone's gonna say Transformers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Gotta be.
I mean, I like the Gobots, but I'm gonna have to go Transformers.
The Gobots was just cheap, wasn't it?
Yeah. Cyclone's cool though, I gotta say, but still,
Yeah, the bike's cool. Yeah. All right, okay, cool. All right. Okay, so Bill, a little bit of personal history from you then. So how long have you been into toys?
Well, I mean, I've been collecting since I was a kid, and we started Fresh Monkey. Let's see, I guess it was like 2015. We did our first Kickstarter, which was for our Amazing Heroes line, which, if you're not familiar with, was a line of figures. It's 5 points of articulation. They're in similar style to Mattel's Secret Wars line of the 80s. And what we did there was we were able to get a couple of licenses like Madman from Mike Allred and Captain Action. And we also coupled that with a bunch of public domain comic book heroes from the 30s and 40s. So that was our first line there. And it's done pretty well. We now moved into a female wave for that. So a lot of those there are based on the public domain heroes of that time. So you've got Miss Fury and Phantom Lady, etc. So anyway,
just to ask a quick question with the Miss Fury one. I know she's still popular at Dynamite Comics. Would it be kind of in the public free to use? Does that mean anyone can do a Miss Fury?
Yeah. So
it's not tied to Dynamite.
Yeah. So Dynamite has done a lot of work with public domain stuff, and then they've spun it, right? So a lot of what happens with the public domain things is a creator or a comic book company will say, hey, we're going to do this version of Black Terror, but we're going to make it into our own version. So they slightly skew it, and then they then can own the copyright on that version. But the traditional ones that were done in the 30s and 40s, are in public domain. So a lot of those heroes we have now are that, and then we've taken that line and then got some few additional licenses. Like you see here, we have Nexus.
I love the Nexus figure.
Yeah,
that is really well done.
Yeah, so we've now took that and worked with some of our friends who are independent comic creators and said, hey, you guys want to do some figures? So we've put a few of those in, like Badgers in our next wave, and then let's see who else we have. Madman, obviously we've done a few versions of Madman because Mike Allred has been a really great partner with that, and these are really limited. We do about 100 pieces now. We don't do crazy numbers, so. The Amazing Hero stuff is limited to about 100 and 150 pieces. Okay. So
cool.
Yeah.
So there you go. This is your oh, there he is with his little eagle. That's cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying they look gorgeous. Bob, off you go.
What I like is with like the 5-point style stuff with the heroes line. I like that even though they're 5 points, they do seem to fit in pretty well in terms of sculpt and look with the Eagle Force stuff. If you needed a superhero to jump in there, like if you look at the picture side to side, I don't think they're too far off from each other.
Yeah, we're taking, we're gonna do, like I said, we're carving off different sub teams within Eagle Force. So one of them will be Freedom Force, which will feature public domain type characters in more modern styling. So that'll be something we'll see next year as well.
Oh, that's very cool.
So you'll see like Black Terror, Golden Age Daredevil show up as a subunit of Eagle Force called Freedom Force. So that'll happen next year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You've got some absolutely tip-top characters going on there. For people who know their old school comics, they're absolutely going to love some of these.
Yeah. The Amazing Heroes line has been really fun, and I want to continue it. But it's the fan base is very nuanced for some of that stuff. But they really have been great supporting the line enough that we can make them in limited capacity. So. So we're excited that we can kind of keep going, and Big Bad Toy Store helps support us for the female wave right now, which is underway. And but these things do take time. I mean, it's like even like comic books, it's like it takes a while. Like it may take 1.5 years to get these toys done. They take some time.
So because obviously I'm in the UK, as you can tell by my dulcet northern east accent, do you ship worldwide for your figures?
Well, that's also one of the reasons we moved to Big Bad, is because they're able to help us with fulfillment and shipping. So so they're going to be able to do that. There's been some challenges, I think, for the shipping into the UK markets over the last year or so, with some sort of different taxes and stuff that have come up recently. You're probably more familiar with it than I am.
Yeah. So because in our wisdom we decided to leave Europe or the European Union, it means there's more import-export taxes and stuff. We're also going through our own delivery crisis at the moment from a haulage point of view.
So that's another reason we went with Big Bad, because they can handle that fulfillment stuff at a scale that we can't, which has been great.
Cool. Excellent. Okay, so I think my favorite character, not that anybody actually cared to ask me, I like Maverick, and I think Maverick's my guy. I think that he's the one that I like. Let me bring him up. I think it is just the I think it's the Chuck Norris thing. I really do. It is that. It's got to be that. I mean, where's he at? There he is. Boom. I mean, that is Chuck Norris, isn't it? It is, right? Isn't it?
I mean, sure. He's got a beard.
He's got a beard.
He could be a random. He could be a random like commando guy coming in off the streets, ready for action.
I've got a beard. Doesn't mean I look like Chuck Norris.
I kind of see it now, Johnny.
He's got the cheekbones and everything. He's all his action figure is bound to be ripped, right?
Yeah, so that's skewing the line a little more superhero-y than military, which I think is, again, we're trying to offer a lot of variety in the line in different ways to speak to different audiences. In the same way that, like, there was a distinct audience that wanted like modern military, and then there's the one that just wanted my gold figures. I just wanted so we're trying to get as much variety in the line to speak to as many folks as possible. Also, because again, like that helps the sales, right? At the end of the day, if I can speak to somebody who wants monster type figures, and I can speak to somebody who wants military figures in the same line, that helps overall sales. And those some people, they're like, oh, why are you doing this or why are you doing that? And I try to explain to fans that like we're all helping each other out, right? So like if I did a line that was just exclusively gold and that's it's certainly catering to that market, right? And that market may not be big enough to support the line, but if I sprinkle in a few other more modern type characters, I'm going to bring in that audience as well, which is going to lift everybody up.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and you can pretty much describe it in 2 words. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to bring up a Joe for this one, but snake eyes, right? everyone thinks, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a ninja? So next thing you know, boom, Snake Eyes is in the drawers. You know.
Yeah, I think Joe did that too. Like they tried to branch out to different types of subgroups, and it's all casting the widest net that you can, really, I think. And that's what I'm trying to do here is, speak to fans of this scale of figure, this type of figure, but also within that have different types of genre that might pop through, that might, speak to someone else to say, hey, there's this line of 8 figures. Maybe I want all 8 because I'm a diehard completist and I want to get everything. Or maybe, hey, I just like, or I just like the gold figures, or I just like this Monster Force stuff or whatever. And that's all great because, again, it really kind of brings everybody to the table and it uplifts the entire line so we can then do more figures ultimately. I mean, that's really what it is. I'm a small company of one person, really. I'm always trying to make sure we can move to the next thing, to continue with the fans and grow the fan base. And so everybody contributing his line is really contributing to this whole thing to help it kind of continue to evolve. And that was a nice thing about Kickstarter. That was the one challenge with not going Kickstarter this time. Like I like the community that's built off of Kickstarter. I think that's a great thing. And so, I was, even though Big Bad came in and said, hey, we want to support it, and I really, wanted to go that direction. I'm glad that we did. We're going to miss a little bit of that community element that comes from the Kickstarter. And so we're going to try to do that through social and stuff and kind of keep that going while we have this event for the next 4 weeks or so.
Cool. So, you mentioned the socials. We've got your Twitter feed going along the bottom there. We've got your website on there. So, guys, if you're into your figures, if you want to get some Eagle Force, gold or original, check out the Twitter feed. Check out freshmonkeyfiction.com and, of course, Big Bad Toys as well, to see the full range of stuff that are on offer there. Bobo, any final questions before we call it a day?
I don't know if it's a question. It's more of a statement based on our conversation today and looking everything from the Kickstarter to Big Bad Toy Store. To kind of follow up on what you said, a lot of times as collectors, we enjoy. I'm going to use an analogy here. We enjoy the steak. We love the steak, but if you have the steak 30 days out of the week, it doesn't become as enjoyable as it once was when you had it at the first of the month. And I think you've balanced that with going from the original to the gold to this new line that's on Kickstarter right now for pre-order. And then what's coming beyond that. I think there's enough variety there to add diversity to your collection where it's just not the same thing over and over again. So I think you're doing a good job balancing all that through. So keep it up.
Well, thank you.
There you go. Excellent. So, Bobo, thanks for the time. I really appreciate it. Taking busy time to record. Bill, thanks very much for spending the time with us. As I said, I am a newbie to some figures. I have about 20 something, and it's all DC stuff. So, because I'm a comic book nerd primarily. But thank you so much. I'm going to keep an eye on these. I'm going to see them pop up. I think they're putting a pre-order in for that cat figure. For Miss Fury. Yeah. I like me some dynamite. It's got to be said. All right, guys. I'm joining the machine, Hughes. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including Crisis in the Toyverse with Bobo, the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. And, of course, TDC, the Definitive Crusade, where you can see a very interesting game of Jeopardy kicking off this week. So there you go. Check out the UCPN for all those. Gentlemen, thank you once again for spending the time. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's it. Adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.